Last Sunday that I completed the Gita discourse, we studied verse 21 of chapter 3, conveying a profound sociological truth. That truth is, when we live together in a society, we have a tendency to imitate each other. Mimetic tendency in sociology, imitation tendency. That was the idea Krishna expressed in verse 21, which we studied the Sunday previous. Yadyada ajarate shrestha tattadeve itaro janaha sayat pramanam kurute lokastad anuvartate. Whatever men and women at the top who are great or who are leaders, whatever they do, the rest of the people have a tendency to imitate them. Whatever standards they keep of behavior and conduct, others also try to follow that way. That's the nature of society. As I said on that occasion, that children imitate the parents. It's quite natural. Similarly, people imitate the leaders. If the leaders are good, people also will be good. This is a truth, and it involves a responsibility on people who are called leaders. They can't do what they like. They have to keep a standard. That's the meaning of the word sayat pramanam kurute. Whatever standards they keep up, lokastad anuvartate. Ordinary people will follow those standards. So what a great responsibility for one to be a senior. The junior looks up to the senior. Go to the schools, you will find senior students, junior students. Junior students look up to the senior students. Whatever they behave, they like to follow this particular example. Krishna expressed this idea as a sociological truth, and a truth which involves a sense of social responsibility on the part of people who are called leaders. In the next verse, which we have to study today, verse 22, Krishna is referring to his own example. Look at me, Arjuna. He is telling in that beautiful verse, Name parthasti kartavyam trishu lokeshu kinchana nanavaptam avaptavyam varta eva cha karmani. Look at me, Arjuna. I have nothing to attain in the three worlds, and yet I am constantly engaging myself in action. That is the language. Name parthasti kartavyam, what you call duty. I have no duty. Duty comes from a certain need to obtain from society, and so you return it in the sense of duty. I have nothing to gain, I have nothing to give. That is my present status, and yet I am extremely busy in this world. So this is an important statement. Krishna is treated as a divine incarnation. He was a political leader, spiritual leader, philosophical leader in the Mahabharata. Everybody looked up to him. He can easily live a lazy life. He don't act at all. Everything will be found for him. But he says, no, I am always active, though I have nothing to gain for myself through this activity. Name parthasti kartavyam trishu lokeshu, in the three worlds I have nothing to achieve. Kinchana na anaptavyam na aptavyam na anaptavyam. nothing to achieve, nothing not achieved. And yet, varta evacha karmani, I am constantly engaging myself in action. He was extremely busy. You will be seeing the Mahabharata. After some weeks, Krishna's story will come. Extremely busy person, constantly going from Dwaraka in Gujarat to Delhi, the capital of India. How many times he has gone up and down. Gone all over to Magadha in Bihar. Constantly active. Varta evacha karmani. That is the language. And yet, I am constantly engaging myself in action. Why? And he gives the explanation. Next verse. He says, if I yadishyaham navarteyam yato karmanya pandritaha mamavatmanu vartante manushya partha sarvasha. If I remain idle and do not do any work, other people looking at me, that's a wonderful idea, let me also be idle, let me also do no work at all. That will be the consequence of my remaining idle without doing work. So the language is yadi hi aham navarteyam. If I do not do work in this world, yato karmani atanditaha, constantly great energy. If I don't do work like this, mama vartma anuvartante, they will follow my way. All people will follow my way. Manushya partha sarvashaha. All people will follow my way. But what is wrong in that? They will suffer. They need to work. They need to earn. They need to do many things. And they don't do because this man doesn't do, I also follow him. So what do? I become the enemy of the people, setting a bad example to them, ruining their life. That's the argument of Krishna. Work I must do, because otherwise people will follow my example and they will suffer. Therefore, just like father at home, he doesn't need to play with toys, but children need. So father also joins the children to play with toys, just to encourage them. Otherwise, father is busy with something, children also, I will be like you. That will be very bad for children. They need it. Various play, activity, etc. children need. So it is good to play with them. That's why good parents will always play with children and act with children. That kind of communication between children and parents is very necessary for the growth of the children. So, a man like Krishna, who doesn't need all this, he says, look at my example. I am working very hard. I am not idle. I don't keep quiet. Mama vartma anuvartante manushya partha sarvashaha. If they do so, they will suffer. That's the next sloka. Utsedeva rime loka nakuryam karma chedaham sankarasya cha kartasyam upahanyamima prajaha. If I keep quiet, lazy, do not do any work, I will destroy these people. Utsedeva rime loka. People in the world will follow my example and that will do them harm. Sankarasya cha kartasyam upahanyamima prajaha. I shall create utter social confusion and destroy the chances of fulfillment of so many people. There is a profound truth in this, and our own social history is illustrative of this truth. We had a philosophy of non-action, inaction, in the name of high mystical attitudes. They never did anything. After centuries together, most of our people also followed that example. Laziness, no interest in work, minimum work, avoiding work, this kind of quality you find in our character today. This is the result of our people trying to follow great spiritual leaders who kept quiet because they had nothing to gain. They didn't do like Krishna. They didn't work in society. They remained aloof. They always remained unto themselves, and our people followed them. Tremendous example of a wrong type came to our people. That's why we are now trying to get rid of that laziness, that want of energy in work, that zest in life. All that we have to create in our people. Take our village people. They are not interested in improvement. Same thing is quite enough, the same dirt, the same kind of insanitary condition. They have no desire for anything better. That philosophy came to them from centuries of experience of a wrong type. You have to change all this. You need it. We'll set an example for you. In that way, Krishna's teaching of his relevance is relevant today for all our people. Utsi devi rime loka nakuryam karma chedaham sankarasya cha kartasyam upahanyami ma prajaha. I shall destroy the chances of a healthy, fulfilled life for all these people. If I don't set an example of hard work, no life fulfillment is possible by remaining idle. If you want economic prosperity, if you want cultural development, you need to work hard. Hard work is essential. That work is taken away from them by setting a wrong example. So Krishna is telling something of great relevance to all of us in our society here. And so these three verses give you Krishna's own example to stress the point that even a sage who has gone beyond all these desires, who have nothing to gain in the world, he also should set an example of hard work for the good of all people. That language will come later in another famous statement. It says, if so, what shall be our attitude to our work? There are two types of people: enlightened people, unenlightened people. These two are there in every society. Sakta karman vidvamso yatha kurvanti bharata kuryat vidvan sada asaktaha chikirshu loka sangraham. Vidvamso is one word in Sanskrit. The enlightened one. Vidwan means knowing one, enlightened one. Avidwan, the unenlightened person. These two have two different approaches to life. This is what he is telling in this verse 25, a very important verse, especially when we deal with citizenship responsibilities in our society. This verse conveys a profound message to all of us. If I am unenlightened, how do I perform work? I work hard, but only to fatten myself. I don't care for others at all. That's called unenlightened type of work. The other is enlightened type of work. Work hard for the good of all, to develop the nation, to develop the people, develop the whole world. Work hard with that attitude. That attitude is expressed in one profound word in the shloka. Loka sangraham, the welfare of the whole world. Unless you work hard, you can't ensure the welfare of the whole world. And when you work hard, keep that motivation. I must serve the people. I must help them to achieve fulfillment. As I try to achieve for myself, I shall try to achieve for others as well. In this way, with a sense of social responsibility, I must work. Then only I do work in the right spirit. So this shloka says, Saktaha, attached. Asakti is called attachment. Attachment to oneself, one's pleasures, comfort, etc. That's called Saktaha. Such people, Saktaha, Karmani, they are very much attached to work. Because through this work I shall fatten myself, earn more money, enjoy more pleasures. That's called Saktaha Karmani. Who are they? Avidvamso. they are the unenlightened people. All the work that they do is only to fatten themselves. Therefore, they are called unenlightened people. Avidvamso yatha kurvanti bharata. As they perform work, deeply attached to work for fattening themselves, similarly, the enlightened man also will work. Kuryat vidwan. Vidwan also will do the same type of hard work. Very heavy work they will do. What is their objective? Motivation is different. This motivation is for fattening oneself. The other motivation is for bringing happiness and welfare to the whole world. Chikirshu Loka Sangraham. Loka Sangraha. Loka means people of the world. Sangraha means their welfare, their stability, their strength. All this is included in that word. Sangraha. Loka Sangraha is a wonderful motivation for work of a highly spiritual type, that in this world of work we can become deeply spiritual. If the motivation is Loka Sangraha, throughout the Gita, the Karma Yoga expounded here keeps Loka Sangraha in front always. Keep in view, you are not alone, there are others also. You eat and enjoy, people are starving around you, that is not correct. We are all interdependent. That concept of interdependence we heard in a previous verse. Parasparam bhavayanta shreyaparam avapchata. How can I be happy when millions are unhappy? Even today we can see what you call two worlds within the same country. The extremely poor, buried in dismal poverty, others very wealthy, living a high life. These two you can see the extremes. How can you be happy in such a situation unless you are dead, so far as the soul is concerned? So work hard that disparity should not come. Just like we have seen, wealth increases on one side, poverty increases on the other. So this disparity should be removed. So he said, Kuryat vidwan. Let vidwan, the enlightened one, do work like that. Chikirshu Loka Sangraham. In order to bring about happiness and welfare of the whole world. This is a wonderful idea. When we deal with citizenship responsibilities, you get this idea. A citizen is not merely living in a country. He belongs to the country. He feels one with the people of the country. Then only he will be a citizen. That citizenship is enlightened attitude, not ignorant attitude. I. What about we? What about I and you? This attitude is the correct attitude to adopt by everyone in every country. Then comes the next verse, 26. Na buddhi bedam janayet ajnanam karma sanginam yojayet sarvakarmani vidwan yuktas samacharan. If there are ignorant people, we should not disturb their mind and their attitudes. We have to help them to improve themselves. But in doing so, we should not unsettle their minds and make them bewildered, as it were. You can make a man bewildered by speaking something to them. That's not correct. Make them understand. Slowly take them step by step. That is the teaching. But simply tell something to bewilder somebody, that's not correct. Because they are not so intellectual, not so educated, we should not bewilder the minds of people by telling all sorts of fantastic things to them. So he said, na buddhi vedam janayet. Don't create buddhi vedam, confusion of mind in the minds of people who are not so educated, not so enlightened, not so intellectual as you are. Yoshayet sarvakarmani vidwan. The vidwan, the enlightened one, will do the work that others are doing, take them in that very line, and thus make them go forward to higher level. You have to go with them. Long ago, I read a book by one Bruce Barton, an American. There he said, a good teacher is one who will come to the level of the student and then slowly lift him up. If you want to get into a running car, moving car, you must run with the car, then get into the car. Otherwise you will suffer. That's the way great teachers do. Go with the people, then get in. So men like Jesus and Buddha, they belong to that category. All good teachers belong to that category. Ramakrishna was of that nature. Vivekananda said in his lecture on My Master, delivered in New York in 1896, watching my master, I found that he could come down to the level of the student, see through the student's eyes, think through the student's minds, and then lift him up. That is real teaching. That's a wonderful idea. Not something throwing from a distance, take it and leave. That's not real teaching. So, in the case of people who are not so highly educated or enlightened, we should not just disturb their mind by putting some fantastic idea to them. Take them where they are. Give them one lift slowly if you can. Otherwise, leave them to themselves. Don't confuse them. Don't disturb them. But educate them. So education is not creating confusion. Education is lifting the person step by step, helping him to restore himself to a higher position. So, Joshayet Sabagammani, I'm attached to work. Man comes to me, don't work. This is not proper for you. I become confused. If I don't work, I can't earn. If I don't earn, I can't run my family. Everything will suffer. This man says, don't work. What has happened? I am confused. Therefore, that man is doing a lot of harm to a person like me. So Krishna says, don't do so. Joshayet Sabagammani. He is working, you also work. Set an example to him. Because he needs it, you are educating him in that particular direction. Joshayet Sabagammani Vidwan Yukta Samacharan. A true yogi is one who can come to the level of the other people and slowly lift them up, even without their knowledge. His very contact is made to lift up that person from that level in which he is now living. So this is an example which we have to set in society. Then comes a section dealing with nature and the forces that are operating in nature and the same forces operating in man also. A wonderful scientific idea developed in Indian philosophy that the whole of nature consists of three gunas, three forces, sattva, rajas and tamas. They are there in the whole of nature. They are there in you and me. Nature is there in you and me as nature is there outside. This is the great philosophical truth expounded by the Sankhya philosophers, adopted by Vedanta and others as well. Sattva, Rajas, Tamas. One is inertia, that is Tamas. The other is tremendous energy, Rajas, and balance, calmness, Sattva. Energy in balance and calmness is Sattva. Now, when these are in equilibrium, there is no creation. Creation begins when the equilibrium is slightly disturbed. Then only diversification becomes possible. So, nature in its original state was a perfect equilibrium of the three gunas, Sattva, Rajas and Tamas. Then at the time of creation, what happens is a small equilibrium starts. That goes on expanding, and that makes for the evolution of this universe, the cosmic evolution. So, he is going to tell us in this particular section about nature or prakriti in Sanskrit. Guna means sattva, rajas, tamas, three forces within nature. Everything is a play of these forces. Sattva, rajas, tamas. You are feeling absolutely lazy, you sit quiet, then tamas predominates in you. Very active, full of energy, rajas predominates in you. When you are perfectly serene and calm, occasionally we get that mood also. Sattva predominates in you. Now this subject of sattva, rajas and tamas will be the main subject in chapters 14, 15, etc. when you go beyond. Now he is introducing it in the context of work. What is it that works in you and me? Krishna says, nature is working through you and me, through these three gunas. So, verse 27 says, Prakritéhe kriyamanani gunais sarva karmani sarvashah ahankara vimudhatma karta ahamiti manyate. Prakritéhe kriyamanani gunani. All these karmas, all the activities are actually done by the three energies of Prakriti, Sattva, Rajas and Tamas. Their permutation and combination create the whole cosmos. All evolution is a product of the permutation and combination of these three energies of nature. And that very nature has also created us, evolved us also in the course of cosmic evolution. Cosmic evolution, then comes organic evolution, there man also appears on the scene. Nature is everywhere. That's the language. Prakrite kriyamanani gunaihi karmani sarvashah. If that is truth, but actually we arrogate all these things to ourselves, my ego, I just fatten my ego and say, I am doing all this. Ahankara vimudhatma. The foolish person, full of egoistic tendency, what does he say? Karta ahamiti manyate. He thinks I am the doer, I am doing everything. Nature has given that little ego into all of us. That ego arrogates all actions to oneself. Actually, it is nature that is doing all these within ourselves. So, nature is a predominant force, and in Indian philosophy, that nature is both external nature and man's own system, psychic and physical system. That's also the same nature. The chemistry and physics of the world appear in you as the chemistry and physics of this body. So, body has its own logic of action. So also the sensory system. But we think we are doing everything. Actually, it is not we. Nature impels us to do these things. That is a profound truth we must realize today. You want to eat. You think you are choosing to eat. Nature compels you to eat. So also many things you do. Nature is impelling you to do these things. This truth must be realized. How nature is such a powerful force, both cosmically as well as in the human system. And he will say later on, you cannot resist these energy impulsions of nature. Very often you have to submit. Very often you have to say yes to them. But at the same time, there is a higher nature in man. When that becomes manifest, we are able to go beyond the constraints of this external physical nature. That is both are prakriti, both are nature. One is called lower nature, the other is called higher nature. Para prakriti, higher nature. Apara prakriti, lower nature. Both together constitute the totality of the universe. That's what Krishna had said, or will say to us a few chapters later. Here he says, Prakrite kriyamanani gunai karmani sarvashah. The various gunas of Prakriti, Sattva, Rajas, Tamas, they do all these actions. But man, full of ego, with a pride and arrogance, says, I am doing everything, I am doing everything. Man's freedom is limited by several factors dictated by nature. Take for example, our genetic constitution. Secondly, the pressure of the environment. Both these things limit the freedom of the ego. He has to submit to these energies that are present in nature. Ahankara vimudhatma karta ahamiti manyate. I am the doer, I am doing this, I am doing that. This is the ignorance and delusion. It is good to recognize the forces of nature that are operating within us. Take, for example, modern studies of the psyche of the human being. The conscious mind, with the ego presiding, is entirely at the service of the subconscious and the unconscious, and that is all nature. The whole of subconscious and conscious are nothing but nature. That nature dictates to the conscious ego, but the ego thinks I am free. You are not. You are under the control of these nature's forces implanted in you. This is good to recognize, so that if at all there is a hope of freedom, we can achieve it after knowing this truth. We shall be free from nature, this external nature, provided we realize our own higher nature or para prakriti. There spirituality comes in. Spiritual knowledge and realization come in at that stage. So here, ordinarily, we arrogate everything to ourselves, to our little ego, not realizing that as it is now found, it is under the constraints of the forces of nature. Ahankara vimudhatma karta ahamiti manyate. I am the doer, I am the doer, I am doing everything. Take, for example, we eat, we drink, we develop our body. Even we go to school, we study, get marks and get a job. Then we marry. Then we rear family, children. Most of this you will find the play of nature only. Nature impelling you to this, impelling you to this. That's all what is happening. But when you become spiritually awakened, you are able to regulate these nature's functions and make them more moral and ethical. That is what you can do by developing your own spiritual awareness. Until then, it is all mere nature. In animal, nature completely predominates. Nothing else is there in every animal. In man, this little ego has come. A little focus of freedom has come. But it is extremely small. Much of it is nature itself. The whole subject of religion and spirituality is how to strengthen that little focus of freedom and make you truly free from the thraldom to nature. Only man can do it. But it cannot be done by merely arrogating everything to this ego. The ego is not really free. It is under constraints of nature's forces. Behind the ego is your own infinite divine nature. When you realize that truth, you go beyond the constraints of this nature. So throughout the book, both are mentioned. Ordinarily, we are subject to the forces of nature. But you can go beyond them. But go beyond them slowly, steadily, not with a sense of ego and arrogance, but by understanding the truth which is behind the ego, my own infinite self, the Atman. That will be constantly iterated in this book as a message of spiritual freedom of every human being. That is our birthright. At present, we are subject to the forces of nature. Nature compels. Another section will come. There also, don't try to fight with nature frontally. Fight in a diplomatic way with nature. Don't go fight with nature in a frontal attack. You will never succeed thereby, he is going to tell. But this is the foolish man's attitude. But a wise man who knows the truth, how does he think? The next sloka explains it. Tattvavittu mahabaho gunakarma vibhagayoho guna guneshu vartante irimatva na sajjate. The one who knows the tattva, the truth about things. Tattva means the truth. Tasya bhava tattvam. What is the truth of a thing? That's called tattvam. And tattvavit, one who knows the truth. How does he think? Gunakarma vibhagayoho. those who know the truth about guna and karma. Guna means the forces of nature. Karma means activity, one dictated by the other. Those who know the truth of the relationship between guna and karma, how do they think? Guna guneshu vartante. Gunas are working among gunas. Gunas are interacting with the gunas. That is the truth they understand. Iti matva, knowing this truth, na sajjate, they are detached. Ego becomes detached from the whole operations going on in front. This is a great Sankhyan philosophy idea, the spirit of detachment. When you get caught up in the force of guna, of nature, you become a slave. You become detached, you become free. So in this case, guna guneshu vartante. Gunas or sattva, rajas, tamas in the form of nature outside, and gunas in the form of my sensory and psychic system. That is also combination of gunas. This and that are nothing but guna working among guna. That's the language. Gunas interacting with gunas. Knowing this truth, na sajjate, he doesn't get attached. He becomes detached. A wonderful attitude of detachment comes, and Gita especially emphasizes this concept of detachment. The flow, the current of life is going on. I am also in it, but I am detached from it. I am acting in it, but I am also detached from it. This is how he is developing this great idea. Guna guna guneshu vartante iti matva na sajjate. This is expressed in many places in the Mahabharata. The concept of the gunas. The whole universe is the play of the gunas. Today we speak of 3 or 4 forces in nature. We are trying to understand them. One is gravitation. Then we have electromagnetism. We have weak force and strong force within the atom. Now these are the energies that constitute the whole of nature, and we are trying to understand. We have not unified them yet, but science is trying to unify them. So in a philosophical language, the Sankhya philosophers said 3 forces are there working in the world of nature. We call them sattva, rajas, tamas. Sattva is absolute serenity and calmness and balance. Rajas is tremendous energy, very often misdirected energy also. And tamas is just like inertia, as you call it in physics. Anything that is inert is called tamas, inertia. Unless you push a thing, it doesn't move. Just like when you are sleeping, you are in inertia. Unless somebody push you up and down, you won't wake up at all. You find a lot of tamas there. So these 3 constitute the whole content of the energy of nature. So also in man. So the concept of guna is a profound concept which people are trying to understand in terms of modern scientific terminology. But prakriter gunasammudha sajjante gunakarmasu tan akrishnavido mandan krishnavit navichalayet. Those who are dull-witted, not very intelligent, they don't understand this truth. They are part of the guna, flow of the guna, they are also in the flow. Such people have to be educated gently. Don't unsettle their minds, but slowly educate them. Otherwise, you will do harm to them. Prakriter gunasammudha. Those who are deluded by the gunas of Prakriti, sajjante gunakarmasu. They are attached to the activities of the gunas, or activities dictated by the gunas. Such people, tan agrasthavido, they do not understand the whole truth. They don't understand only a little bit of the truth. Don't disturb their understanding. If you can, help them to understand better, but don't leave them in that disturbed condition. Tan agrasthavido mandan krishnavit navichalayet. Man who knows the whole truth should not disturb one who knows only partial truth. But if you can help him without disturbing and confusing him, well and good. Otherwise, don't disturb him, is the language used here. Then comes, for the first time, Krishna is telling about his own divine nature. as God Himself. Just a passing reference, which will be more and more as you proceed in the various chapters ahead. Mai sarvani karmani sanyasya adhyatma chayatasa nirashihi nirmamo bhutva yudhyasva vikata jvaraha. The beautiful verse. Yudhyasva, fight on, carry on the battle of life. See the language. Yuddha means battle. Yudhyasva, do battle. How? Vikata jvaraha, without tension, without excitement, calm and serene way. And yet, engage yourself in the battle of life. So the message is, face the battle of life cheerfully, but a certain attitude has to be developed. That is what is said here. Mai sarvani karmani sanyasya, renouncing all actions in me. There is a divine who is beyond all this nature, whose energy is nature. As the Shvetashvatara Upanishad said, Mayam tu prakritim vidhi, Mayinam tu maheshwaram. The whole of nature, with all the gunas of sattva, rajas and tamas, they are called Maya. And He, the Lord, is the master of this Maya. Ramakrishna used to say, magic and the magician. Magic is not true. Magician alone is true. Don't concentrate only on magic. Remember, behind the magic is the magician. He alone is true. So there is Maya and the Lord of Maya. That is the Supreme Divine. And so Krishna says, Mai sarvani karmani sanyasya, renouncing all your actions in me, who is beyond Maya, with the master of Maya, adhyatma chayatasa, developing a spiritual attitude, a spiritual frame of mind, adhyatma chayatasa, nirashihi, without cravings, too many cravings in the mind, shaking our peace and our stability. Nirashihi, nirmamo, without that ego, that I and mine, a strong attitude of I and mine. Bhutva, yudhyasva, march on in battle. Vikata jvaraha, without tension, without excitement, calm, steady work you do. That is the profound message of this Karma Yoga chapter of the Gita. Work without tension. Work without fuss. Very profound message. Generally, we haven't got the strength to work with calmness. Therefore, we make lot of noise, lot of fuss. A machine makes lot of noise when it is not efficient, it is not properly oiled. But if it is a good machine, it will be silent and quiet. Formerly, pumps used to make lot of noise. Today, silent pumps are there. So many changes you will find. More efficiency coming into the machine. Like the old, even our auto rickshaws, what a noise they make. 12 miles per hour, but such a noise. Whereas a first-class car goes on without any noise or fuss, etc. So in the human system also, there is such a thing as efficiency in life and action. That efficiency is measured by the calmness, the absence of noise, the absence of fuss, and yet producing tremendous results. If these two work together, you have supreme human efficiency. Any kind of fussy work is inefficient work. Calm, silent work is efficient work. We have seen people, even households, so much of noise and fuss going on, but actual turnout is so little. But noise is very much, fuss is very much. Why not be calm and quiet? Carry on the burden with a smile, as if no burden at all. This kind of spiritual strength must be behind all efficient work. That's why he said, Vikata jvaraha. Jvara means fever in Sanskrit. Vikata means without. Without fever, perform work. Fever means here tension, excitement, fussiness, especially fussy work, There are people who go on shouting all the time in the midst of work. That is inefficient work. So much of fuss you make, that shows inefficiency. The Gita wants us to work absolutely calm and steady. You are moving at high speed, like our jet plane, 600 miles per hour. You don't feel it is moving at all. Absolutely calm and steady. What an efficiency of that machine. Similarly, the human system. Yudhyasva vikata jaraha. Face the battle of life without that tension. It's the biggest message we have today. All our problems we can solve when we become efficient workers, calm, silent and steady. People who think that much passion is needed in the midst of work, much noise must be made, they don't know the meaning of work. It is the silent man that does the best of work. Calmness is essential. Samatvam yoga uchyate. Second chapter, Krishna defined yoga as equanimity. Samatvam. Mind is in calm, perfectly in calmness. The best work will come out of you when the mind is in calm. You can disturb the calmness if you are the master of the situation. You can be very, what you call, energetic in action, but the whole thing is under control. Nothing is off in your situation. Just like anger. If you have a controlled anger, it's perfectly fine. The anger takes control of you, then something goes wrong with you. You become mad, as it were. So in this matter, this particular teaching is very, very significant. Yudhyasva vikata jaraha. Fight on, free from tension, free from excitement, free from noise and show. This is my message, Krishna is telling. In the next verse, 31, Ye me madamidam nityam anutushtanti manavaha shraddhavanto anasuyanto muchyante tebi karmabhihi. Those who listen to my teaching as given here with faith and devotion, they implement it in their life, they also will become free from this duality, this relativity, this bondage, and achieve perfect spiritual freedom. The jnani attains it, but the karma yogi also will attain it. Though you are living in the midst of action, you have a family, you have responsibility, surrounded by all this. Normally, we generally sink down, but no, I am giving you a philosophy by which you will also be free. The millions of working people can be free, but this is the philosophy for it. Yudhyasva vikata jvaraha, he said. Then he said, adhyatma chetasa, with a spiritual frame of mind. Then something great will happen to you. How? Ye me matamidam nityam anushthanti manavaha. Those people who will follow this teaching which I have just now given, shraddhavanto, with great faith and conviction, anasuyanto, without cavilling, without a cynical attitude, with a positive frame of mind, muchyante tepi karmabhihi, even they will be freed from the bondages of action. If action creates bondage, there is a method by which you can remove the bondage aspect of the action, so that action takes you to freedom. That will be a great message for all. We will all be happy to get such a message. That's why Krishna's message is declared to be a Gita, a music for the human soul. What a beautiful Bhagavad Gita. Music is always inspiring to the human soul. And the English translation by Sir Edwin Arnold calls it the song celestial. What a wonderful language it is. Celestial music you are getting out of this. Millions and millions and millions of people, though caught up in the world of work, they will be free when they follow this philosophy. That is a great assurance given by Sri Krishna to all the working people of this world. And almost everybody is a worker. Whether you are rich or poor, you are working. Whether you are high or low in society, you are working. So it is a universal philosophy for humanity. Then he says, those who do not care to listen to this teaching, they even poo-poo it, they will have a very low level of life. Etadabhyusuyanto nanasishtanti me matam sarvajnana vimudham stan vidinashtan achetasaha. Those who decry this teaching of mine, this wonderful teaching, and do not practice it, deluded in all knowledge and devoid of discrimination. Mind is deluded, there is no discrimination, they speak ill of this teaching. What happens to them? Know them to be ruined. They ruin themselves. They can't get out of this bondage of life. They will ever be deeper and deeper in the bondage. There is a method by which we can be free. It is just like a rat enters a trap. He can also come out the way it came. He doesn't know it. He is deluded. It's only a runabout, that's all. But there is a way to go out, he doesn't know. So a great teacher comes and tells us, we have entered into this bondage, we shall get out of it. This is the way to get out of this bondage as well. So the philosophy of the Gita, yoga of the Gita, is a philosophy for one and all. We have to face the challenge of the world, challenge of work, challenge of all these prakriti around you and in you, and you take up the challenge and you become free with the help of this philosophy. That is a profound message Krishna is giving to the whole humanity. That's why the Gita is attracting the attention of working people. Lazy people cannot appreciate this teaching. Only working people, those who work with zest, work with joy, and in work learn the calmness, the serenity of the human mind and heart. And what wonderful joy it is to work in such a way. It is like gliding. When you glide, you don't find any pressure. You don't find any difficulty. The wind carries you this way, that way. Life becomes a gliding, as it were. Or you can call it hang gliding of today. Just like that. Absolutely spontaneous, natural. How? Because of the change within our system. New element has come in. Adhyatma chetasa. Adhyatma attitude. The spiritual attitude has come in. So the whole work becomes different. You can actually demonstrate in your life. When we are untrained in mind, we work, we get tired, we get depressed, we get so many changes of mind and its attitudes during the whole day. But when you have this kind of teaching with you, you are able to face all these difficulties better. Not that in one day you can conquer it, not at all. But by applying it in various situations, you grow in spiritual strength, carry more heavy burdens with a smile. This is the possibility opened up by the Gita for the whole of humanity. So very ancient book, and yet how modern, how thoroughly relevant to the times in which we live. It is. Great books are eternal books, immortal literature. About 5,000 years ago, Mahabharata war took place. Krishna gave this message to Arjuna. After all these thousands of years, you find it is so relevant to everyone, not only in India, but also outside. The message given to man, how to make him free. That freedom is his birthright. It is built into him. He doesn't know how to manifest it. He is helping us to manifest that ever-present freedom that is within ourselves. That is Krishna's great message in this third chapter known as chapter of Karma Yoga. Further teachings come, some more verses are there, and towards the end a wonderful 7-verse section dealing with the origin of crime in society, how to overcome crime. We shall deal with these verses next Sunday.